There's some question?
Yes. It seems that we are like fish in an aquarium. When some situation comes to you, you have to deal with it unless you want to die. Retaining yourself from action also needs some energy. But what is the ideal? To act according to Krishna conception, then how would it look like?
How are the fish in the aquarium threatened? Hare Krishna. That's the only part I don't understand. Unless they mean hostage to circumstance. Maybe that's what they mean. Being held a hostage to circumstance. Karma. When we were publishing the books of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, myself and Mahayogi Maharaj, and we heard Srila Guru Maharaj say this one thing, and we thought we were hearing him say something, so we're typing what we think we hear him saying. But some other people thought, no, he's not really saying that. He's referring to a famous cliche. And what the cliche is a bad worksman quarrels with his tools. Right? So just like at that Bolshoi theater in Moscow where the ballerinas are, they asked one of those ballerinas, and she said she knows where every board in the floor, all different ones, and where, to avoid, she knows all of these things. Which is funny because they say that, the unqualified dancer, they blame it on the stage. She's not blaming on anything. She says, but I know this, I know every piece of wood on that floor. Anyway, the maxim is a bad worksman quarrels with his tools. The reason the job couldn't be done, I didn't have the right tool for this, so the work didn't come out so well. But Guru Maharaj, he also has a sense of humor, and part of humor are puns. He's very adept in the English language at what are puns. So what we heard him say was what he was saying. And he was parodying this statement by making a pun. And he said, a bad worksman quarrels with his stools. Right? So there's tools and stools. Right? So he was parodying this famous maxim, but making a point. And the way we knew that he meant to say that, it wasn't a slip of the tongue or misspeaking, a bad worksman quarrels with his stools, was then he explained. He said, when that time comes for evacuating, we don't like the outcome. We can say, it's offensive, aromatically and otherwise. But you think, then why don't you quarrel with the food that you enjoyed, of which this is the predicted outcome of that enjoyment? It's going to lead to this. It would be better that you quarrel ahead of time with what is before you. So what he's saying in summary is that the karmic circumstances we find ourselves in is like someone objecting to the offensive outcome of evacuation. Those are the terms I'll use. Right? Objecting to that. I'm saying, but who produced that? You produced that. And why did you produce that? It's the outcome of your bhog, your enjoyment has led to this sort of reaction. So when we find ourselves in different circumstances, we may like to think that it's the fault of others, right? We're being dealt with unfairly. We hear people often speak when they're talking about political self-determination, they want to live in a just world. Or if they're a little more experienced and less naive, they might say a more just world, realizing that a just world, it's not possible. in the world of exploitation, what is just and unjust? What is fair, unfair? Right? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So when we find ourselves surrounded by karmic circumstance, we should think that actually, even as the so-called existentialists used to like to say, that, man is the architect of his own fortune. In a certain sense, that is true. Right? These circumstances we find ourselves in, we have generated them. The universe is not being unfair to us. The laws of karma are not being unfair. The principle of every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, is not misfiring or not operating properly. Not. Everything's as it should be. Someone wrote a book once called, with the title, Why Do Jai Bhakti Vinod Maharaj Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Make room there for the Boro Swami. That's announcing his arrival. Because they think you should not enter the deity room without making a sound or something. Ring a bell, not do something. Even in the regular world, that's a good thing. Although they say about a butler, you know what a butler is? Say, a true butler, if he's in the room with the master is alone. No presence. Like Mahaprabhu's assistant Govinda, who he reluctantly accepted the service from because he thought, we're God brothers of the same guru, I don't want to take service like that. Should consider my God brothers and God sisters worshipable. And here's Govinda, and who was the other? Damodar, maybe. Two came. And they've been sent to do seva for Mahaprabhu. He's reluctant to do that. But finally, some internal adjustment is made, he accepts that. But that Govinda is such a perfect servitor, and after lunch, and Mahaprabhu will rest for a little while, Govinda will normally massage his lotus feet until he falls asleep, and then he'll ease his way out of the room without creating any disturbance. But we're told this one day, Mahaprabhu is very tired. And he's also very large and tall. Sometimes Gurudev would say like 2 meters. And he lay down in that Gangbhira room, which is not such a big room, and he's in front of the doorway. And it's time for Govinda to do his seva, and he can't, singing, I'd have to step over him to do this. And that's considered offensive in Vedic culture, to step over, what to speak of Mahaprabhu, any Prabhu, deity, even, an animal. I hear you. Even an animal, should be treated with some respect. So, but he's saying, I have to do this seva. So seva, that's everything. That's the sort of, the absolute, you apply seva and it unlocks it's the key that unlocks any situation to know what to do. What do we do from the seva point of view? So he steps over Mahaprabhu to massage the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu. And then Mahaprabhu drifts off into sleep. So his seva is finished. But he will not cross over Mahaprabhu to leave, because that would be for himself. So he's just there with Mahaprabhu, and after some time, who knows, 20, 30, 40 minutes, Mahaprabhu awakes and he finds that Govinda is still there and asks why, and then he can understand. For the seva, he would cross over. But for his own concern, not so. Hare Krishna. Yes, give. Hare. So the person wrote a book, Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People? It's an interesting question. It comes up all the time. So I didn't read the book, but the title I found interesting. I thought, well, the answer, you don't need a book actually to answer this question. One word will answer this question, and that word is karma. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That's why seemingly unwarranted, undeserved, bad things happen to good people. And actually, it's an argument in favor of karma, reincarnation, etc. Because we can say, this person did nothing observable in this lifetime that warrants this type of punishment or misfortune. They didn't do anything to deserve this. That's why people are outraged, particularly when it's a child, born in some unfortunate way, or something. Every day on the internet, you'll see some sort of news story of something that seems just totally cruel and unwarranted, undeserved by some so-called innocent person or an innocent group of people. But if we understand the principle, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, and it's not to say that these are not good people. No, we see them as good people. It's the only satisfying explanation to why these things happen. Otherwise, if it's just random, the luck of the draw, the reason the person is suffering from some, disability, is their chromosomes didn't line up properly this one time. Right? Someone has 5 children. For 4 children, everything was fine. This one child, it didn't line up right. Something happened to one of the genes, one of the chromosomes. Too bad. So the rest of your life is ruined. There's that sort of explanation. Some people will say, no, the karmic thing seems cruel. You mean something they did in a previous life created this situation? I would say, from a scientific point of view, that's more defensible than just things happened accidentally. Because if they're just accidents, then for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction comes into question. But if that principle is true, if it's a law of physics, a scientific, truth that we have to deal with, then it would seem to indicate that these things that we cannot verify, that seem unwarranted in this lifetime, perhaps in a previous lifetime there was some activity that generated this type of an outcome. So Rupa Goswami deals with that in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Padma Purana, where it says that karma, 4 stages of reaction: the seed, the sprout, the blossom, the fruit. Different stages of development. So then if we start thinking about this thing, well, if this is true, and I've lived so many lifetimes, who knows what in me at present, Some karmic seeds are there waiting to sprout. Others have sprouted. Some are blossoming. Some are bearing fruit. And at the same time, in real time, as a human being, I'm creating more. So when Arjuna and Krishna have this discussion in Bhagavad Gita about karma, Prabhupada calls it the intricacies of action, karma. What is the first thing Krishna says to Arjuna? It's complicated. It's complicated. It's very complicated. Because you have your individual karma, you're generating karma in this lifetime, you have past lifetimes, bahuni me, vyatitani, janmani tavacharjana. Arjuna, you and I, many incarnations we have. I remember all of mine. You don't remember all of yours? Guess what? I remember all of yours. Personally, or as Paramatma, I know your whole history better than you do. Sounds patronizing, but if it's coming from divinity, it's acceptable. Hey. Who knows us better than we do? The two birds on a tree, Dwa Suparna Sayurja Sakaya. The Upanishads say, like two birds on a tree. What is the tree? The tree of karma. One bird's eating the fruit of the tree, and the other bird, Upadrastanu Mantacha, Bharta Bhokta Maheshra, Parmat Meti Chapayukto Dehisman Purushapara, is the Upadrasta. That means overseer, observer, but it's because Upa means, it means like, like people, the part of the stereotype, it's God's watching what everybody's doing. Not like that. Not like up in the clouds watching, like, oh, he went behind a tree. I can't. Oh, that's right, I can see everywhere. No. No. That Krishna would be plagued with all of this stuff. Don't do that, Paramatma is supposed to be neutral on the edge of his chair, like, oh, I hope he doesn't. Oh, there he goes, did it again. 1 million lifetimes. When will he ever learn to stop this type of self-destructive behavior? Now, Paramatma has to be neutral. Otherwise, it would be almost intolerable, right? But Krishna is in the background. So, in the midst of these self-generated karmic circumstances, Krishna is telling Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, the first level of defense or strategy, matra sparshas tu konteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agama payano nityas tangs titikshas vabharata. He's comparing it to seasonal changes, saying that's what life is like, that's what the world is like. Like now, we've entered into a different season. A couple months ago, we're wearing sweaters, down jackets, and what happened? Just the season changed, so we made some adjustments. As I mentioned, that saying they always say in New York, but other places they go, everybody talks about the weather, but nobody does anything about it, right? Because you can't. Not a blade of grass moves without the will of God. There's something special is hidden in that maxim. So first, Krishna telling Arjuna, you have to tolerate all of these things that happen. Because first of all, you're responsible for them. So you should be tolerant. Like the Avanti Brahmana, who after taking sannyas, it's in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, what's described there is so horrible, we can't even mention it, actually. But you can read it. But what's interesting is, his point of view is, as horrible as these people are treating him, he's thinking, in my householder life, I was not a very nice person. I abused many people, my family, other people in business, this, that, the other thing. So whatever's happening to me now, I can see how I deserve it. So he wasn't angry at those people. It didn't affect his ego. He just thought, all right, I get it. I'm the driving force behind these things. They're only immediate agents. They're not the ultimate agent. Or you say local, right? So you can then you come to understand you're the agent, the cause of these things, but you're not the ultimate cause. So if we go deeper in the Bhagavatam, Tatenu kampam susamikshmano bhujana evatma kritam ripakam. Samiksha means to examine. Susamiksha means to scrutinize, to examine like deeply. If we look then at the ultimate cause, the blade of grass notion, then we have to say, so then God is behind of all this. Then some people will stop there and they go, then why does God let horrible things happen in the world? No, you're not looking deep enough. Remember, you are responsible. This is also in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is telling you, I may facilitate what you do, but you're responsible for what you do. Like parents might have to say that to their children. I facilitate what you do, but you're responsible for what you do. And you're going to suffer and enjoy the outcome. So the ultimate cause means deep in the background is Krishna. Right? So then we have to think, that person who not a blade of grass moves without his will, is he inimical to me? Is he trying to give me a hard time? Because if that's the case, it shouldn't be that difficult. He's the infinite, we're the finite. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Gurmar said, in one place, he says that, just to get this out there, like if someone would inquire, although the jiva is nitya, eternal, Krishna can do away with his existence. He can delete his file like it never was. Right? That's the power of the infinite. Saying, no, but he lived and so many people met him. He can fix that. He's the infinite. He can no, but he lived. He can still deal with it. He can. It never happened. That should give us pause for thought. So he's saying his power is such. But then we could say, well, then his power is such as he can make him happen again also, right? Yes. He can also do that. But I don't want to go deep into that right now, but just to make a point that if it was Krishna's intention or the ultimate reality to give us a hard time, is that really a problem for him? He has to just wait for other people to show up and make your life miserable. Like, I hope somebody stops by today because it's really making me upset. He can do all kinds of things. He can get biblical, like you see in the Bible. That's a Christian, Judeo-Christian God. He's always, got it out for somebody, or a group of people. Obey me, lest I smite thee from the face of the earth. God's better than that. You're better than that. We know that. Yeah. Wait, let me just finish this one point and then I'll take it, because I don't want to leave that hanging. So, what do we hear in the Gita and echoed in the Bhagavatam? Gita? Bhoktaram yagya tapasam. Yeah, everything's meant for his enjoyment. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam. Sarva loka maheshwaram. He's in control of everything. But here comes the hope. Suhridam sarvabhutanam. That he's the dearmost friend of every living being. And then it says, Prabhupada called this, he wrote a pamphlet in the 60s, he's always writing something. He called it the peace formula, because there was all this talk about world peace. So Prabhupada, he wrote something called the peace formula, because the last line says, Gyatva mam shantim richtiti. If you understand this about me, that everything's meant for his enjoyment, not a blade of grass moves, etc., He's controlling everything, every event, every situation. He knows everything. He knows you better than you know yourself. That person is your dearmost friend. He's not arranging things in such a way as to make you miserable or unsuccessful or a failure. He is your friend. So deep behind all these circumstances is a friend who's nudging his friend along in a progressive direction. That's theistic culture. That's the theistic way of interpreting the world. And the opposite of that is an atheistic way, or a way that portrays God in a less than benevolent portrayal. That he's meddling in the affairs of human beings and making them suffer because they violated some principle, like on a technicality. You won't go to heaven on a technicality, neither will you go to hell on a technicality.
For the sake of argument,
Yes.
I'm trying to take a little apposition from
sure.
point of materialists who would say, well, you guys are very cleverly explaining spiritual things.
Mm-hmm.
But if we look at all history of religion, specifically organized religion, we see that there is violence and terror behind God's orders. In Bibles, in numerous times, there's some divine command to some king to, get rid of this group or that group, as well as in your Hindu scriptures of Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita.
Yes.
It seems like your God, Krishna, descends, and he becomes cause of the violence. Although, instead of trying to make a peace, he actually pushed his own devotee Arjuna, to get rid of particular personalities.
Yes.
So, how would you harmonize, how much you are better with your Krishna consciousness, the ancient ideas than those modern guys who's screaming, God is great, and cutting everybody's throats?
So, well, one thing, mostly what you said is accurate, except there's a point of omission, is that with regard to Kurukshetra, where Bhagavad Gita is spoken, Krishna, as a diplomat, tried to avoid this war. So he was not the cause of this war in the local sense. Right? Although if we go way, way deep in the background, the absolute personality of Godhead, right, who's controlling everything. But just for the sake of accuracy, we should understand, Krishna tried to negotiate a diplomatic settlement between the potentially warring parties. And it's mentioned at that time, when he meets with the opposition, that Duryodhana, he thought this is a great opportunity to apprehend Krishna. Because he's thinking, Krishna's everything to Arjuna and the other side. If we get him, they're nothing without him. Their spirit will be broken. This is really the one-step solution to this problem. And at that time, realizing that Duryodhana is not interested in any sort of reasonable diplomatic solution, including, because he's saying, a Kshatriya king, and we have to look in context of when this was, 5,000 years ago, that culture. A Kshatriya king, he needs a little kingdom. Even if it's just a village, then he can fulfill his dharma, his occupational duty. And the famous statement from the opposition is, we will not give them enough land you can drive a pin through. When it could have been, give each one of them a village. We're done. And they'll be the king of that little village or something, and they'll satisfy their occupational necessity and duty. So when Krishna can understand Duryodhana is not interested in a negotiation, but rather in apprehending him, we're told, he's saying, but look at me, I'm not just one. And then he starts showing Vrishnis, Pandavas, everyone, and he makes a Virat Rupa display. So he's showing innumerable personalities, universe is everything. And it noteworthy is Dhritarashtra, the blind king of that opposition side. He when Krishna starts displaying this Virat Rupa, there are sages there, great sages and devotees, as they do, they start offering prayers to the Lord on basis on what they're seeing. And Guru Maharaj likes to make this point that this arouses the curiosity and Dhritarashtra. He wants to see what they're seeing. All of these things are critical to understand as a little background. So he can hear all the praise and he can understand there's some extraordinary display of mystic power, majestic potency. And he's blind, so he turns to Krishna and praises him, saying that, knowing that Krishna is all-powerful, omnipotent, if you could just momentarily remove my blindness and allow me to see what everyone else is seeing, and then I'll be blind again. But just for this moment, if I could see this. And this is the critical point. Guru Maharaj said, Krishna says, it's not necessary to remove your blindness. If I will that you will see this, then you'll see it. It's not some physical sort of seeing, like restore your vision and you'll see this. It's not like that. If I will, there's my divine will, that you will see this, and then you'll see it. Even remaining blind. And then Guru Maharaj says, and the blind man saw. So, I'll just jump ahead to the end. Oh, well, to make a point. So, when Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Krishna, and this is what is commonly misunderstood by people, thinking he's inciting Arjuna to violence. No. The Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is the charioteer of Arjuna. Technically speaking, it's like being the driver. It's the driver of one of the vehicles. Arjuna is the Kshatriya warrior. Krishna's already promised, because we factor in that he's omnipotent, that he will not take up any arms and fight. So we have to understand all aspects of this story. Even the opposition is factoring in Krishna's divinity or omnipotence, so that he will not take up he won't do any mystical mischief to win on behalf of the Pandavas, which he does, actually, and even though he promised he wouldn't, which shows you something about Krishna. But anyway, so he's the charioteer of Arjuna. Arjuna is a Maharati. He's, a supreme warrior. As much as you can be a warrior, a martial artist, a military man, a soldier, a general, a leader, he's that to the nth degree. That's who he is. That's what he does. Just like in the modern world, we have soldiers and generals and a warrior class. That is his occupational duty. That is his dharma, to engage in particular type of righteous battle, righteous fight, right? There are many things that dictate this. So when there's a righteous battle for a Kshatriya, that's his dharma. And he's not just having a failure of nerves, but on the battlefield, not in another time, that all these warring armies, millions of soldiers with their leaders, generals, weapons, etc., have assembled on the battlefield. It's time for the battle to begin. And that's when he becomes bewildered about what he should do or not do. And he's looking and seeing the opposition on the other side. His own martial guru is now on the other side. That's why he says, Gurun Hatva Himahanubhavan. what he's saying really, the Sanskrit language says, how can I kill my guru? That's what he says. But they'll say, how can I kill the person who taught me, my teacher? But it says, guru hatva, means guru killing. He said, how can I, he's the person. He was my martial arts guru. And so, surrounded by his karmic circumstance, he's trying to escape his dharma, his actual dharmic necessity, by, as Krishna says, what did he say? Asochasthanam pragyavadam shabasase gatasun agatasun cha nanu sochanti pandita. Pandit means like a learned person. He said, you're talking like a very learned person, but actually not. Right? You're giving all these seemingly noble reasons why you should not engage in this battle. But they're excuses and avoiding what actually is your duty according to your occupational position and your very nature. And then this discussion is there. And from many, many different points of view, Krishna discusses a path of action. But after all of that, so he's saying, from considering that you are a warrior, we're on a battlefield, there's millions of people here, the fight should have started a half an hour ago. You could just, blow your conch shell, again, and mean it. Or if you think, Dharma, what's Dharma? We can discuss that. We can discuss the modes of nature, why people do what they do. Why do good things happen to why do bad things happen to good people? We can discuss all these things. And Krishna does that from many, many different points of view. But interestingly, ultimately, he says, why you should do this is because ultimately it's my divine will. Now we could say, what, aren't these people in the modern world doing that? Well, I would say the all-important question or not is whether or not it is the divine will. Just like with regard to a government or a police force, sometimes they have to authorize soldiers, their representatives, to kill people, whether it's the soldiers or the police department. If one of those soldiers or policemen come back to society, say they were in the army a couple of years, killed so many people, they come back, they have medals. More medals than a Russian general, like all over, right? But now that you're back in civilian life, if you punch a person, maybe you're going to jail. Why? Before, you were being given medals for this. Now, you offended somebody, you punched somebody, you're put in jail. Because it doesn't have that backing. So this question about having divine backing or not is a big question. And we can say also that interestingly, because although Bhagavad Gita, we take it as being a historical occurrence, really this is most often viewed as a metaphor for someone surrounded by their karmic circumstances in life and how you fight from that position. So 5,000 years have passed. In this time, interestingly, up to this point, no one is using the Bhagavad Gita to kill anyone, as an excuse for killing anybody. A book that's spoken on a battlefield. Right? Where Krishna, he's not encouraging Arjuna to just, because he doesn't like a certain group, he doesn't like the people on the other side, to kill them. He is appealing to him to perform his duty as a soldier. It's very different. And as I said, up to this point, no one is using the Bhagavad Gita as a book to incite violence. And in fact, ironically, one of the biggest promoters of Bhagavad Gita was who? The modern day, god of nonviolence, Mahatma Gandhi. So the Gandhi and Tolstoy, right, who shared these principles of nonviolence, they're extracting this from Bhagavad Gita. So there's more than meets the eye. If by a superficial glance of reading that and without hearing all the details, we can come to the wrong conclusion. But that said, there is a statement in there, Nahanti hatvapi sa imal lokan nahanti nanibadite. That there's a plane when not only killing, but Guru Maharaj would make this point, saying, in destroying the universes, there's no reaction. So where is that plane? How do you connect with that plane? Right? We can say Shiva. Because who destroys all the universe doesn't get a reaction? Shiva. Right? Why? Because that's his function. Right? Death is unavoidable. Right? In Vedic conception, we have Yamaraj. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also says, Mrityu sarva haraschaham. At last, as death, I take away everything. So it's better to give it up before that happens. So it has to be understood very cautiously and very carefully. And in the end, Krishna says to Arjuna, Vimrshai tadasheshena yatejtasi tatakuru. Consider what I have said, and then do what you wish to do. Yeah.
Well, Krishna also said that there are people in primarily different moods of nature conditioned by particular consciousness.
Yes.
Which actually indirectly would point that particular groups of people will be always in ignorance.
Yes.
And they would probably not get the right message.
Yes.
From anything.
So in the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that's where we can understand there's something called tamo dharma, or religion in the mode of ignorance, religion in the mode of passion, religion in the mode of goodness. Where's Krishna located? At the end of Kurukshetra war, we're told this Brahmin, Uttanka, who had some mundane concept of Krishna, came to him and said, seeing all the death and destruction from Kurukshetra and all the widows and orphans, saying, Krishna, you are the cause of this. So with all the Brahminical power I have, I'm going to curse you. With all the power I have, I curse you because of all this sorrow and suffering you are the cause of. And Krishna tells him, hold that thought, because yes, you're a Brahmin in the plane of Sattvagun, and you have accumulated some power within the trimodal world, and you're now getting ready to expend all that accumulative power in your attempt to curse me. And he says, but I'm in the Nirguna plane. It's beyond the jurisdiction or the influence of your world. So the only result from your cursing and expending that power towards me will be the loss of your power. It won't affect me. That we have to consider also. He's in the Nirguna plane. But then within the saguna world, ignorance, passion, and goodness. Mode of goodness, we're told, you do something because it's the right thing to do. Like sometimes we hear people say, do the right thing. Right? Not with any expectation of reward, remuneration, you do it, it's the right thing to do, it should be done. Religion in the mode of passion, we're told, is in anticipation of some gain by performing a religious activity. I'll fast and get this, or I'll donate and get that, I'll feed the poor, that kind of thing. Feed the hungry, clothe the poor, etc., with some anticipation of that'll be beneficial for me to do that. Right? Or someone adopts some vrat, some vow, some penance, some austerity to achieve something, whether it be mystic power or otherwise. Like we see sometimes people too, they do this in prison, hunger strike or something like that. But that's really going now more towards the mode of ignorance, right? Which is doing the wrong thing at the wrong time and the wrong place for the wrong reason. That's religion in the mode of ignorance. And what we're alluding to, referring without getting explicit because I don't want to, that's what's going on in the name of religion. Has nothing to do with divine will descending through divine agency, but in the name of divinity, imposing my will upon another person, judging them, making a value judgment about the validity of their life, their existence, and committing violence upon them in the name of divinity. So that's a heavy crime. And on this idea about the sacrifice of the body for divine reward, Guru Maharaj likes to quote, when it's a pastime, but still Sanatana Goswami getting a bad reaction from, he's come to Mahaprabhu for divine association, and just the opposite he thinks is happening, and he's thinking, he's contemplating suicide. And this famous slogan, Sanatano Deho Tyage Krishna Nahi Paibe, something like that. He said, Sanatan Ekkane, if you could get Krishna by giving up your body, then I'm ready to give up, 1,000 bodies a minute, 1,000,000 bodies an hour. If that's how you get Krishna, I'm ready to do it instantly. That's not how you get Krishna. And Guru Maharaj reminds us, the body, on this theme we were speaking of earlier, of karma, seeds, sprouts, so roots. The roots of karma are in the subtle body and the mental system. So even if you cut away the body that's been generated by the karma, the roots are still there. They'll just generate another body. So Rupa Goswami is saying, you have to, he talks about the seeds, frying the seeds, the karmic seeds, the Krishna Bhakti fries the karmic seeds, then they won't sprout. And to be a little more explicit about it, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that, but you may see, you get two examples. One, sometimes after death, like it surprises everybody at the funeral home, the body leaps up for a minute and goes, saying sometimes that's just from past momentum, it's really over. Or we'll see a fan when it's connected to the current, the blade's moving, disconnected from the current. There's no fresh new momentum being generated, but someone says, no, but I still see some, the blade, it's still moving, but actually it's slowing down to the point of where it's not moving anymore. There's nothing new. So karmani nirhati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. For the devotee, at most we may see the residual movement of some past karmic activity, but it's disconnected from the source of generating more karma. Any other question?
Yes. I think it's something
You think it's what?
related.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Speaking about Paramatma, if it does not interfere, why is it accompanying Jiva at all?
Well, to accommodate the jiva, to accommodate all the desires of the jiva. And we hear, in some instances, to give suggestion through conscience. Right? We have some conscience, something, little inspiration internally, not to do this or to do this. It's very soft, a soft suggestion. But the Paramatma is there as an observer, accompanying the jiva and accommodating the jiva. And Guru Maharaj further says, he said, it is as if a shadow of the miseries of the jiva are on the Paramatma. Right? As if a shadow of the miseries of the jiva are on the Paramatma. So that makes the Paramatma very sympathetic to the sojourn of the jiva. And Guru Maharaj gave an example too, like in the case of Guru, who's in a sense taken as an outward manifestation of Paramatma or Chaitya Guru. That he said, like a doctor, when a doctor takes on a patient, and other people have this experience too, when someone tells you what they're suffering from, we're going, oh, that's terrible. Oh, we feel something. Makes us sympathetic to their, we don't just, like no one, of course there are doctors who hear this all the time, so they're like, oh really? Mm-hmm. How long have you had this? Oh, it's terrible. But we like someone to be a little more sympathetic. So Guru Maharaj said, that says, if a shadow of the miseries are upon the Paramatma is sympathetic to jiva, but non-interfering, and accommodating them at every step of the way. So wherever there's Atma, in this world there's Paramatma. In the spiritual world, there's no necessity of Paramatma. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santaksa deva hridayeshu vilokayanti yang shama sundaram achintya guna swarupam govinda maripurusham tamaham bhajami. There, the devotee's heart was told Shama Sundar Krishna. So Paramatma is accompanying the jivas in their sojourn in material existence. And the upadrashta is that overseer, observer. Anything else?
Yes. Maharaj, we frequently hear you say about Srila Sridhar Maharaj that he was generous. For example, he was generously saying something. What is the meaning of this word in such cases?
Well, what it means is a less qualified person would say something offensive or hurtful or disturbing, upsetting. So even in dealing with opposition or people who might have thought themselves to be enemies, Guru Maharaj could be quite generous with the language he used to refer to people. But I can give an instance where one of the Gaudiya Math preachers, they were in some village, and he spoke to, and remember, this is in like Bengal, they worship Devi, Ma Kali, Durga, all aspects of Devi. And somehow this devotee, they're in this town and was giving some talk comparing Maya to a prostitute. And everybody was upset. They were practically ready to run the devotees out of the town. Like, what are you saying? Then they brought it to the attention of Guru Maharaj. And then Guru Maharaj calmed everyone and explained everything in another way that was more or less saying the same things, but in different language and in a more generous and affectionate way. And then everyone was, then we can understand. So there are just many instances where he would deal with that. Devotees were trying to get one devotee in trouble. And they thought, what could be worse than this? They saw in some diary where he'd written something about and they said, when everyone else was praying that Prabhupada would live, he said he was praying he would die. What are you going to say to that? That seems like the ultimate damning evidence. Everyone was praying, and it says he was praying he would die. And they're bringing this to Guru Maharaj to try and get him to say, yes, he should be, excommunicated or ousted. And Guru Maharaj said, there was such a situation in the time of our Guru Maharaj, because one devotee, one very earnest servitor, he was thinking that now Prabhupada Guru Maharaj, he's very ill and in this condition, we can't do the desired service for him. So I look forward to that time when we'll be released from these circumstances, and then we'll be able to serve him and what he really wanted from us fully. And everyone went, oh. And they wanted to, again, come heavy on this devotee, and Guru Maharaj quoted Queen Victoria, saying, it's her first act as the queen region, in India and England, but India included, and they want to punish a soldier. And his superiors are saying, the man, what he did is abominable, he should be punished and severely. And she's saying, nothing good can be said about him, nothing, he's the worst. He said, nothing? And Guru Maharaj said, then that man understood the heart of the queen. And he said, oh, well, in his private life, he's a good man. And she said, then I forgive, there's no punishment. Why? Because she's setting a tone for her administration. This is the first dealing. So in the first dealing, I'm going to show mercy. Right? The quality of mercy is not strained, it droppeth like the gentle rain from heaven. So, Guru Maharaj is known for this, mercy above justice. Right? And not just saying it, but applying it. And at the mat, sometimes someone's not, you can say, pulling their weight, doing sufficient service, but being tolerated. Srila Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj saying, like they mentioned something saying, He's doing prasad seva. Means like taking prasadam, not making. Prasad seva. But Guru Maharaj should not be misrepresented. There's a saying, as soft as a lotus, as strong as a thunderbolt. When some devotees were not participating in everything, and Guru Maharaj said, previously if someone showed this kind of behavior, he said, we would give them prasadam and show them the door. He said, but you've come from so far. So we shouldn't think this means like he was not firm, or that's not at all. But that's what makes him all the more interesting. So Gurudev wrote that in that one pranam where he's saying he is as dharmic as Yudhisthira, like Gurudev said about Guru Maharaj once. He cannot tell a lie. He's incapable of lying. And that when he was even before he came to Gaudiya Math, when he was a college student, he said he made a vow, from this moment forward, I will always and only speak the truth. And he said, and the world became like a ball of play in my hand. That's what he said. So Gurudev said, Guru Maharaj cannot lie. So he says, dharmic is Yudhisthira Maharaj. And once Gurudev needed him to lie for the mat, the benefit of the mat. And Guru Maharaj cannot. So Gurudev said, because he had to bring some man, and he said, if I bring this man and I say something to him in front of you, will you not object? Guru Maharaj said, that I can do. I won't object. So he said, as dharmic as Yudhisthira Maharaj, he said, but as merciful or more merciful than Birachandra Prabhu. Those two things. Because you could think, straight like Yudhisthira Maharaj, then we can expect some harsh judgment or lack of sensitivity or compassion. No. As dharmic as Yudhisthira, more merciful than Birachandra. I think that qualifies for ultimate generosity. Hare Krishna.